The first episode of Marvel's She-Hulk premiered on Disney Plus and has received a divided reaction on the internet. But how was it really? This is Exasperated Nerd Explains. The series starts with the titular character, Jennifer Walters, practicing a closing argument at her law firm, which receives gushing praise from her assistant, and her male coworker asks if he can do the closing argument instead. Granted, we don't know what this case is about other than inferences from her speech, but the assistant is acting like this is something revolutionary, but it seemed pretty generic to me. Then there's a small fourth wall break, which happens a few times in the episode and is a trope from a classic She-Hulk run in the comics, which then leads into a flashback to her getting her powers in a car accident with her cousin, the Hulk, where he bleeds into her open wound, causing her to also transform into a Hulk. After this, the majority of the rest of this episode is a training montage showing how much she does not need training. And this is where it really starts to drag. What follows is basically the same scene several times. Jen says she wants to go back to being a lawyer and her normal life. Bruce says it's too dangerous and that it took him 15 years to master being a Hulk and tries to teach her something. Jen shows she has immediately mastered this thing. Bruce goes, "What?" And playing with the mentor-mentee relationship can be really funny if it is done right. And some of the scenes are kind of funny, but having the mentor constantly shown up is undercut when it's the same scene each time, over and over. You can get away with this once, maybe twice, but then move on to do something different. There are also a few weird editing choices both in the comedy, but prime example, Bruce tests Jen to see what takes her to transform into a Hulk, and then says, "We don't know if you'll turn back when you're unconscious or not," and mentions that he was the Hulk for 2 years at one point. The next scene is about learning meditation, which is followed by a scene where he wakes her up with an air horn. She is in her human form and transforms into a Hulk when she wakes up this way, and he says, "You do transform back when you sleep." She was in her regular human form in the last scene, so this was clearly supposed to be before that scene. Just cut that line of dialogue out or put the scene in the correct order. There is a second meditation scene, which has gone somewhat viral already for a very specific line.
Here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or might just literally get murdered.
Which is arguably the funniest joke in the episode, but I think this was supposed to be a serious, dramatic line. Instead, it's just kind of absurd for a few reasons. One, the statement on its face goes a bit too far. Saying if a woman shows any anger, she will be straight up murdered is a bit of a leap. In the right circumstances, sure, being mad at the wrong person can lead to them killing you, but that's not common and also not limited to being a woman. This could have been a little bit better if it was specific to her career path as being a lawyer. I know it says mansplaining, but it still isn't specific to her and it's trying to apply all, which does not work. The second reason this is absurd is that she is saying this angrily, kind of indicating she's not that good at it. And thirdly, a few minutes ago in this episode, she was aggressively catcalled and transformed into a Hulk, presumably about to kill the catcallers. And in reference to that catcall Hulk scene, Marvel has already done it. This is the same scene we saw in Captain Marvel. In that movie, the biker asks her to smile, and she steals his motorcycle in righteous revenge. Though in the extended cut, she instead uses her powers to hurt him and threaten to permanently maim him if he does not hand over this motorcycle. I guess at least these guys were bigger jerks, and our hero was stopped from beating them to a pulp thanks to the Hulk tackling her. But her claim of being in complete control is ridiculous. And granted, maybe that will be a plot point. This points to that, and the opening where her assistant says there is a Savage Jen
I don't have a Savage Jen Walters look. There it is.
indicates she may get too mad over something and lose control later in the series. At least then she would have some internal flaw to overcome in regards to her powers, but maybe that's asking too much. So after all this training montage, Jen tries to leave again, insisting on returning to her normal life, and when Bruce tries to stop her, she runs him over with a jeep, leading to a fight. After which she lets the perfectly calm and reasonable Jen return to her normal life, a picture of serenity. The episode finishes with her about to give her big closing argument from the opening scene, which is immediately interrupted by a really just goofy looking Titania attacking the courtroom, which included another moment I laughed at, which I do not think was intended. Just a kind of slow, straight flying kick, which looked so goofy and fake, like it was out of Mortal Kombat or something. I'm not sure if this was an intentionally campy action moment, but considering the rest of the episode wasn't that way with their action, I don't think that's the case, even though this is one of the funnier things in the episode. As for the rest, the acting was good, the casting seems fine, the CGI is still not great, not as bad as the initial teaser trailer, but still not great. Some of the creators were defending the look of She-Hulk, saying that the criticism about her look is men trying to control women's bodies because some people said she should be more muscular to be as strong as she is. Which is true from the logic of the MCU and the current Hulk, given his strength. It would make sense if she is not as strong, but faster since she is leaner. And I do believe there are some people saying that. The majority of the criticism I saw about She-Hulk's look is that the actual blending of a CGI character into reality was not really working. So yeah, the first episode was not very good. I didn't hate it though, and I do think the premise of a court show in the MCU is solid enough that I will still watch it, because it should be pretty easy to make some fun one-off episodes now that they're finally back to the premise. But there are definitely some things here that give me pause about whether or not this creative team will be able to recover from this opening fumble. But what did you think of the series premiere? Am I being too harsh? I did laugh at the post-credit scene, and I found some amusement here and there throughout, but it felt like it spent the whole episode being the generic opening act of a superhero movie where they learn how to use their powers instead of just skipping all that and getting to a courtroom comedy, which was the promise of the premise. Do you think it will get better? Let your voices be heard in the comment section down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video so I can grow and post more frequently. Thanks for watching. Bye.